Maulana, Jesus Christ once said, "A man cannot live by bread alone." This means that a person has two aspects of his personality, the physical aspect as well as the spiritual aspect. While everybody takes care of the physical aspect, very few people take care of the spiritual aspect. My question to you is, how would you define spirituality?
Spirituality is inner discipline. For physical health, you need physical food, and for inner health, you need spiritual food. Both are equally required. Those people who are engaged to, to physical food, they are less like animal. Here, man and animal both are common. Animals also want physical food. So if you confine yourself to physical food, that means that you have reduced yourself to the level of animal. So you have to know this fact. You have to evolve the inner spirit. You have to try to develop your mind. So spiritual development means intellectual development. Both are interlinked. According to my experience, spiritual development is based on intellectual development. So you have to read, you have to study, you have to contemplate. All these things are helpful to intellectual development. So through these devices, you can develop your spirituality. That is must for every human being.
Maulana, you just said one needs to contemplate. What would you say on the importance of introspection? And how should one practice spirituality?
Introspection is must for spiritual development. There is no other way. But introspection is not something mysterious. No. Introspection is linked with your intellectual process. So introspection means that you revise yourself. Every day you reassess yourself. For example, here we are put on test. So this is our testing period. Due to this, we commit mistakes, we go wrong side. So all these things need to revise. That is introspection. So through introspection, you correct your spiritual journey. Without introspection, it is not possible to attain the spiritual development.
But Maulana, is spirituality a part of religion or is it an independent discipline?
Yes, some people take it as an independent discipline, but it is wrong. These people take religion as a culture, simply as a culture. So according to their conception, religion is nothing but a set of rituals, a custom, or culture. This is reduced concept of religion. According to my experience, religion is a complete system, complete discipline. Religion encompasses your whole personality. In this sense, spirituality is the essence of religion. When you speak about religion, there is a form, also there is a spirit. So form is another thing. But as far as the spirit is concerned, that is spirituality. So you have to observe the form, but if you want to evolve the spirit of religion, that is spirituality. So spirituality is an integral part of religion.
Maulana, you said that spirituality is the essence of religion. So, how is it related to different aspects of our life? And can you give some examples?
Spirituality, I think that it is it is it it pertains to your whole life. Every time you are active in something, when you are speaking, when you are thinking, you are practicing, then you need spirituality. Spirituality means spirit, inner spirit, in pure form. So if your inner spirit in pure form is there, then your activities will be good and correct. So I think that spirituality in the sense of inner spirit is required every time, in every activities. Without this kind of spirituality, you become simply a form, simply a set of rituals. So that is a reduced form of spirituality.
Maulana, how does spirituality help in coping up with adverse situations?
I think that spirituality is the only tool for this purpose. Why? Because why we are perturbed, why we are living in tension, why are there are so many stress. All these things are by taking material reasons. We are living in material things, in material goods, in material activities. It is this material activities that creates tension and stress. And spirituality means living beyond materialism. Spirituality means living beyond material world. So when you have adopted this kind of capacity, then it means that material things have become secondary for you. So when you adopt this kind of personality, this kind of thinking, that spirituality is for you primary things and material things are secondary. So this is the best solution. Because all those problems, all those tensions and stress are result of your involvement in materialism. And when materialism is secondary, then you have no botheration. This is the best formula of de-stressing. Elevate yourself from material things, and then you will attain spirituality, and then you will be able to live a tension-free life.
Maulana, is there any connection between human values and spirituality?
Certainly, because you need some incentive behind human values. Without incentive, without inner spirit, without incentive, or without motivation, moral values are nothing. They are simply manuals. So every value system require inner motivation, inner incentive, and it is spirituality that gives you motivation. and incentive. If one is deprived of spirituality, it means that he is deprived of motivation. Without motivation, how you can observe moral values? So, moral system needs spiritual spirit.
Maulana, what is your spiritual mission in life?
I have found spirituality in Islam. My spirituality is based on Islam. Islam means God-oriented life, God-oriented thinking, God-oriented activities. So Islam means making God your supreme concern. And this is the source of my spirituality. Without God, spirituality is rootless, no base. So that is a reduced form of spirituality. So as far as myself is concerned, I have found my spirituality, my spiritual roots in Islam. Islam is not my ordinary religion, but Islam is, for me, Islam is the source of my spirituality. Or in other words, source of my inner spirit, my inner strength, my inner energy. All these things I have derived from Islam.
What does science says about spirituality? Does it support spirituality?
So spirituality is not the subject of science. No, not at all. Science, the research of science always goes on quantitative things. So spirituality is a qualitative discipline, and science and the domain of science is quantitative field. So both are two different disciplines. But according to my experience, in indirect way, science supports spirituality. In indirect way. Why? Because science discovers the secret of nature. Science discloses the inner laws of nature. And what is this nature? Nature is the creation of God. So all those divine signs are hidden in nature. All those things that are divine sign, S-I-G-N, they are hidden in nature. So when science discovers nature, it also discovers the sign of God. Although it is not main concern of science, but in direct way, it discovers and discloses the signs of God. So in this sense, science is a great helper towards spirituality. And I have discovered science in this sense. My spirituality is greatly based on scientific discoveries.
Is there any age to become spiritual?
No, there is no age limit. When one becomes mature, in the age of maturity, then his journey towards spirituality begins. Only what is needed is only maturity. If you are a mature mind, you have attained the maturity, they are in a position to start the journey towards spirituality. No age is obstacle in this regard.
But Maulana, do you think that spirituality addresses the mind of the youth?
Yes, but alas, not the present youth. present youth. Why? Because present at present the young generation is greatly engaged in hoo-ha culture. Hoo-ha culture. They know nothing except hoo-ha culture. Shopping and outing and hoo-ha. So this is a temporary phase among young generations. It is not in their nature. I don't I don't believe that this is the nature of youths. It is artificial culture. So at present, youth are engaged in artificial culture that is unnatural. Due to this, they are not interested in spirituality. But I think that if we try to address their mind, if we try to make them believe that spirituality is their energy, their life, then I have no doubt that they will get interest in spirituality. Young, any- young generation is not an exception. They are human being, and human being is born with spirituality. Spirituality is our natural urge. Spirituality is our natural urge, our natural need. So young generation is not an exception. They are also included in this general formula.
Maulana, do you think that this problem of youth can be addressed if spirituality is introduced as a discipline in schools and colleges?
Maybe partially it will be helpful. Because I think that school education or college education is not enough. We have to do something from outside. I believe that there are two kinds of education: formal education and informal education. Formal education is helpful to get jobs, but it is not enough to inculcate moral spirit. It requires informal education. Formal education can give you degree, can give you job, but I don't believe that formal education is enough for moral teaching. Moral teaching requires informal education. By informal education, I mean that education through media, education through literature, education through meetings. All these things are informal education. So informal education is needed for inculcating moral values among youths.
Maulana, what is the importance of rituals?
Ritual.
Yes.
Ritual is also important. Everything has some act, some form. For example, basically man is a soul. It is soul that is man. But we have also a body. So everything needs some form. So our prayer, our spirituality, all these things also require some form. But form is only relative part of worship or spirituality. The real part is inner part. So I believe that without inner spirit, form is nothing. But with the spirit, form is very important.
Maulana, when we talk about spirituality or religion, people often say that it is difficult to strike a balance between the material life and the spiritual life. What is your comment on that?
No, no, not with. I don't subscribe with this notion. Why difficult? If you take materialism as a greed, then it is difficult. But if you take materialism as a need, then there is no difficult. There is no difficulty. You see, all these people are engaged in materialism with the spirit that more and more, more and more, more and more. Why more and more? You have to be, you have to adopt contentment. It is contentment that is source of peace. More and more is not source of peace. All those people who want material goods more and more, they are living in tension. The only source of peace or tension-free life is contentment. So when you adopt materialism in this sense, then there is no contradiction. No contradiction. So contradiction is between greed and spirituality, and not between materialism and spirituality.
But Maulana, is it necessary to detach oneself from the physical world to become spiritual?
No, not at all. Detachment is not needed. You have to live in this world, and then you have to maintain your spirituality. Spirituality is nothing as spirituality is not something as mystery. No, spirituality means is inspirations. If you live in vacuum, then you will be deprived from the source of inspiration. But when we live in material world, in relationship, in social life, then every time you get inspirations, you get lessons. That is spirituality. So detachment is not a part of spirituality.
What do you think are the obstacles which one faces in his or her spiritual growth, and how can they be avoided?
I think that only one obstacle, no two or three, that is distraction. Distraction is the only obstacle in this way. And what is distraction? Distraction means living with things that are superficial, that are resultless, that are simply entertainment, that is simply enjoy. People are engaged in those things that are distraction. If you are seeker in true sense of the word, then you have no time to watch movies, to go to outing and shopping. All these things are distraction. So I think that the only thing which is obstacle in the spiritual path is distraction. Save yourself from distraction, and you will attain the goal of spirituality.
Maulana, more on a personal front, what was the toughest thing that you faced in your spiritual quest?
Myself,
Yes.
to control my desires. I have all those desires that anyone have. Desires are part of human nature. Desires are part of human personality. And it is these desires that you distracts. Desires always distract you in different in different in different things. So the most difficult thing for me was to control my desire. And I can say that anyone who wants to have spiritual development, he must do this. Because desires always distract you. So if you fail to control your desire, you will be distracted every time. If you fail to control your desire, then you will waste your money, you will waste your energy, you will waste your time, you will waste your life. So you have to control the desires. I'm not saying that you have to curb your desire. That's another thing. To curb your desire is another thing. I'm saying that you have to control your desires. You have to confine to need and not to greed. So for me, it was most difficult task to control my desires. Because I have all those desires that anyone have. But if you gain control over desire, the result will be very, very marvelous. And that is peace of mind.
Can an atheist be spiritual?
Perhaps no. Because atheist believes, because atheists have no belief system. Atheist has no belief system. Atheist simply believes in material things. Atheists don't believe in unseen world. Atheist tries to live in seen world. So it is a permanent obstacle for him. Atheist denies that there are also unseen world. You cannot afford this kind of thinking. So these people say that there is no world except that is observable for us, and it is wrong. Even in scientific terms, it is wrong. So when you deny this fact, there is also a world that is unobservable, then you cannot achieve spirituality. Because spirituality is greatly a part of that unobservable world. It is beyond observation. Spirituality is beyond our observation.
So, Maulana, can we say that a person who believes in God or is a spiritual person is in a better position as compared to the one who does not believe in God?
Yes. Because one who believes in God, it means that he has found the source of spirituality. According to my experience, God is the only source of spirituality. God is the only source of inspiration. God is the only source of conviction. God is the only source of spiritual light. So if you deny God, it means that you have deprived yourself from the source. So without source, how you can attain spirituality? It is like a rootless tree. If you deny God, it means that your spiritual tree is a rootless tree. A rootless tree cannot stand on this earth.
Maulana, how would you define spirituality?
Spirituality means living in higher reality. Higher reality. Those people who are deprived of spirituality, they are living in 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 lower level of the world, in material things, in comfort, in luxury, in money, in shopping and and outing. These are lower level of living. All these things are pertain to lower level of living. So you have to elevate yourself from this lower level. Then you will attain spirituality. So according to my experience, spirituality means to elevate yourself from this lower level, to go beyond the seen world and to reach to the unseen world. This is the definition of spirituality according to my experience.
Maulana, how important is introspection?
Without introspection, there is no spirituality. Because there is a well-known saying, to err is human. So every time you commit mistakes, so you have to revise yourself, you have to recorrect yourself. So introspection is an integral part of spirituality. Without introspection, there is no spiritual journey. According to my experience, no introspection, no spirituality.
Is spirituality a part of religion or is it an independent discipline?
Some people believe that it is an independent discipline, but I can say that it is simply it is a pure philosophy. These people fail to attain the spirituality. They are in bewilderment. They are living in bewilderment. Without religion, by religion I mean divine religion. Without religion, you cannot find the source of spirituality. You cannot find the reservoir of spirituality. You cannot find the light of spirituality. This is my experience.
Maulana, is it possible to train oneself to become spiritual?
Yes, without training, there is no spirituality. You need training. Training means sincere effort. What is training? Training means sincere effort. So sincere effort is necessary. Without sincere effort, you cannot attain spirituality. Training is nothing but sincere effort. So you cannot attain anything without sincere effort. In this sense, training is necessary.
Maulana, how important is spirituality for the society? Would absence of spirituality make any difference to our lives?
Yes, spirituality is greatly needed for a better society. Without spirituality, society will be reduced to like a jungle, like animal world. Spirituality makes the members of society responsible person, duty conscious person. Spirituality is the essence of society. Without spirituality, society becomes an anarchy. It is spirituality that checks the immoral practices. It is spirituality that controls the unwanted desires. It is spirituality that that makes people to save themselves from misusing the freedom. So all those goods can be achieved only in the spiritual atmosphere. So I think that a better society, I think that spirituality is uh, an integral part of a better society.
Maulana, what do you think then are the kind of questions that spirituality addresses, and how does it address?
According to my experience, all the inner questions can be addressed only through spirituality. Man is born like a immature personality. Man needs maturity. So how you can attain maturity? It is through spirituality. So when you present spirituality in its scientific form, then everybody is bound to the nature is bound to address. If you present spirituality in its correct form, then I, I don't have any doubt that man's nature will be addressed. And I think that true form of spirituality is in religion, especially in Islam. So if you derived your concept of spirituality from religion, that is Islam. Islam is preserved religion. Why I refer to Islam? Because Islam is the preserved religion. So if you derive spirituality from Islam and present spirituality in an Islamic way, then it is bound to address the human nature.
Maulana, you have founded CPS International, known as Center for Peace and Spirituality. What is the mission of this center?
Mission is obvious: to promote peace and spirituality. I think that as an individual, we need spirituality, and as a society, we need peace. Spiritual persons are best member of a society, and where there is a peace in the society, there is everything. Because without peace, there is no positive activities. Where there are peace, there are development. Where there are peace, there are progress. So as an individual, we need spirituality, and as a society, we need peace. These two things are very, very important to build a better society or a better human being.
Maulana, if you were to address the mankind, what would be your message?
I perhaps I would say that make spirituality your goal and try to live in peaceful atmosphere. So spirituality and peace with both want some price, and you have to pay that price. Spiritual development wants the price. Spiritual development wants a price, that is, saving yourself from distraction. And a peaceful society also wants a price, that is, avoidance, adjustment. Without adjustment, without avoidance, there is no peace.
Spirituality related to different aspects of our life. And can you give some examples?
Spirituality is my life from the outset. I was born with spirituality. I can say that I was born as a spiritual person. So spirituality is my integral part of my life. But what is spirituality? But for me, what is spirituality? It is not a mysterious thing. People generally take spirituality as a mysterious discipline. That is an ecstasy. According to some people, or according to the majority of people, spirituality means ecstasy, and that is nothing. It is not my spirituality. For me, spirituality is going beyond the material world, going beyond the seen world, going beyond your desires. This is spirituality. So when you make a journey beyond the material things, then you will reach to a universe of fact, universe of spirituality. So for me, spirituality means going beyond the material world. In this sense, I was born with spirituality because I was a person who never was indulged in these comfort and luxury and these material items. Always I tried to live on need rather than greed. So this is the basic of spirituality according to myself. Then I would like to add one more point. There is a very relevant verse in the Quran that وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا. It means that it is God like a duty. It is like a duty obligatory for God to provide risk for everyone. Now, risk has two meanings: physical risk and also spiritual risk. Risk means food. So it is God's duty to provide food. And according to my experience, this food has two different aspects: physical food and spiritual food. So God has given us all those foods that is good for our health, good for our physical health. So we need spiritual health. And here also God has provided us all those materials that is helpful for our spiritual health. Spiritual health needs continuous supply of food. You know, our physical health, our physical body needs continuous supply of food. So is the case of spirituality. Spirituality also needs continuous supply of spiritual food. And the source of this food is God Himself. When we remember God, when we contact with God, we receive inspirations from God. Inspirations from God. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. When one tries to make contact with God, he will find God and he will receive inspirations from God. According to my experience, it is this divine inspiration that is the spiritual food. And everyone can attain this spirituality, this spiritual food.
How does spirituality help in coping up with adverse situations?
You see, adverse situation is part of our life. There is no exception. Everyone faces such kind of situation. In everyone's life, there are some moments like this. But what is required? That is spiritual thinking, spiritual mind. And what is spiritual mind? That is contentment. In Arabic is qanaat. Without contentment, there is no other way. Because you are destined to live in problems, in difficulties, in losses. So you have to be patient. You have to keep patience. You have to keep contentment. Otherwise, you will go to tension and stress. Everyone suffers. Suffering is a part of life. So you have to take sufferings as a lesson. And in every suffering there are lessons. So if you extract lessons from suffering, then the suffering is not evil, but suffering becomes a good experience. This is my spirituality.
Maulana, what is the importance of surrendering to God?
Surrendering to God is essence of spirituality. Without surrendering, you are Mr. Ego, Mr. Arrogant. Surrendering to God means surrendering to reality. God is our creator. God is our sustainer. God is the Lord of the universe. So surrendering before God means surrendering to the reality. This surrendering makes you realist. This surrendering makes you modest. There is no other way. Without surrendering, you are arrogant, and you will lose the realistic approach. So all these positive qualities are only a result of surrendering. According to my experience, one who is not ready to surrender before God, he will go to negative thinking. He will become an arrogant person. He will lose modesty. So all these things are great obstacle towards spiritual development.
Does silence play a role in spirituality?
Silence.
Yes.
Silence is very important in spirituality. Very, very important. Because when you are silent, you are thinking. Silence means thinking. When you are speaking, it means you are not thinking. But when you are silent, it means that you are thinking. And thinking is the main source of spirituality. There is a well-known saying that when I am speaking, I am not thinking. Someone has said that when I am speaking, I am not thinking. So silence means thinking. And without thinking, there is no spirituality. So there is a hadith, very relevant hadith. The Prophet of Islam has said that man samata naja. Though he will get salvation who observes silence. So silence is the way to salvation. So silence is very important quality of a human being.
Thank you, Maulana Wahiduddin Khan.
Thank you.